Welcome, everyone. My name is Fred Wade. I lead the DocuSign for Salesforce engineering team at DocuSign. I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about how you can customize the DocuSign for Salesforce experience and kind of share some of the things we have in the pipeline. So before we begin, I have to show everyone's favorite slide here. Don't make any purchasing decisions based on what you see here today. Some of the information presented may be conceptual that is subject to change, yada, yada, yada. So what are we going to talk about today? First of all, I'm going to go over briefly what is DocuSign for those of you who aren't familiar with it. Also, what is DocuSign for Salesforce? Give you a peek at the current state of customization options as well as the future state. And then I'm going to go into a demo and also have a Q&A session afterwards. So DocuSign. In a nutshell, DocuSign delivers a fast, easy, secure way to make every agreement digital so you can keep life and business moving forward. Okay. What is DocuSign for Salesforce? Well, it helps you close deals faster with a really tight, seamless Salesforce integration. Documents are routed to the right people. We have very complex routing rules. You can set reminders and notifications so you can get your document signed quickly. We help reduce errors and improve compliance. You can create forms by just dragging and dropping data fields directly from Salesforce, so it merges data to and from Salesforce. And it streamlines your workflow processes, so you can set up complex routing rules, and you also have a lot of visibility and control into where your contracts and your documents are. So out of the box, this is kind of a slide demo here, but we have a Send with DocuSign button, and you can attach it to a number of standard Salesforce objects like opportunities, accounts, leads, contracts, etc. So if you click Send with DocuSign, you go to a page we call the Edit Envelope page, which allows you it automatically pulls in documents from the Salesforce object you initiated from. It automatically pulls in contacts. You can add more, you can remove them, whatever. You can set an email message, you can set reminders and notifications, you can set expiration settings. And then you go to what we call the tagger, where you can drag tags to the document, and it can merge data from Salesforce, it can push data back into Salesforce, and you can tell your folks where to sign, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we do out of the box. And for a lot of people, that's okay, but oftentimes you want to customize this, and we want to adapt to your business processes and not make you adapt to ours. So what can I do today to customize that flow? So we have a couple options. One, org-wide settings are available via DocuSign Administrator settings. You can set the UI element visibility on the Edit Envelope page that I showed you earlier. You can hide certain sections of it, restrict it, or whatever. You can add the Send with DocuSign button on your default page layouts. You can set recipient language selections, chatter updates, but this applies org-wide to any envelope you might send through DocuSign. We also have custom buttons. Currently, we support JavaScript and URL custom buttons. These are very flexible, so you can control the out-of-the-box DocuSign for Salesforce behavior. You can set the UI element visibility. You can completely bypass the Edit Envelope page. You can add additional documents, recipients. You can add recipients from related lists. But it's also fairly limited. JavaScript is not available in Lightning custom buttons at all, so that's been a challenge. And the visibility is determined by the page layout. And the syntax is fairly unintuitive. I don't know if any of you have had experience with JavaScript custom buttons in DocuSign, but remembering the tildes and the semicolons and all the things, it's not very intuitive. So can we do better? How do we support Lightning better? So we have something coming soon we're calling Lightning Optimized Custom Buttons. So basically what these are custom objects that store all the custom button logic that you had in JavaScript. It's going to greatly simplify the management of these custom buttons. You can reuse the button logic on multiple pages. You can track the data very well with this. We leverage the Salesforce platform security, so we have security on all the CRUD operations, field level security, et cetera, et cetera. And most importantly, you don't need to code anything. This form validates all the inputs. It's very easy to use compared to the JavaScript version. What if you don't want any buttons? And we hear this a lot from our customers. So we got you covered too. Another thing we're announcing is invocable actions. So we're going to support sending DocuSign documents or envelopes through invocable actions. What this means is that you'll be able to plug this into your process builder workflows or cloud flows and be able to pass in some basic information to send a DocuSign envelope. And you might see here that we also support the custom buttons in there. So the custom button logic that I mentioned earlier is available in your invocable actions and your workflows. It's only going to support very basic envelope functionality, create and send, add documents and recipients, et cetera, et cetera. There are some restrictions on how we can expose invocable actions. It's very basic parameter lists and such. So it's going to be a fairly straightforward process, but it's not going to be extremely flexible. And again, no code is required. So what if you need more? Well, we got you covered there too. So another thing I'm very excited to announce is that we're going to be launching a DocuSign for Salesforce Apex Toolkit. And what this is that we're going to take some of our previously internal types and expose them as global types and methods. Our goal is to expose everything you can do with envelopes that DocuSign for Salesforce does. No administrative functionality we're planning to expose. You'd still do that through the DocuSign for Salesforce Administrator tab. Because we're building this on DocuSign for Salesforce, you get a bunch of stuff for free. So you get the administrative controls. We handle authorization and authentication to the DocuSign APIs. We'll do validation. We still support automatic anchor tags, field level security for your custom objects. We're very aware of Apex governor limits and DocuSign API limits. And you'd also reference existing custom buttons, including the new ones that we're launching. So why might you use the Apex Toolkit? Well, if you want the deepest level of integration possible with DocuSign for Salesforce, you do that. You might have an existing application that you want to add some DocuSign functionality into. This will work for that. Maybe you have a custom UX for envelope sending or signing or whatever. You don't need to use our UX. You have complicated business logic. You might want to extend DocuSign somewhere where we're not currently, such as Service Cloud or your communities, and also process automation, of course. A lot of these things you can accomplish by using some of the methods I mentioned earlier, but if you really want to get down and dirty with the code, this is the way to do it. Okay, let's code. Let's take a look at what this actually looks, how it would work. So, give me a sec. Okay, I'm gonna have to change my mirroring options here. Okay. I can't actually see anything over here, so give me a second. Okay, alrighty, good. All right. Can you guys see that okay? Yeah. All right. All right, so I'm gonna walk you through a really basic flow here, creating and sending a DocuSign envelope via our Apex Toolkit. Keep in mind, some of these names are gonna change. This isn't the final version. Some of the operations I'm gonna show you can be grouped together, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm gonna kind of walk through the various steps. So the first thing I'm going to do here is create a DocuSign envelope. So we have a create envelope method that takes in an envelope object. The minimal information you need to provide with an envelope is an email subject, a message, reminders and expiration settings if you have those. You could also pass in a Salesforce source ID, like an opportunity ID, an account ID, or something like that, if you want to pull in information from that Salesforce object. You can pass in a custom button ID, which I'm not doing in this demo. And you could also tell it to load associated files and context from the source object. But since I'm not using any source object here, I'm just leaving that as false. The last thing I'm going to do here is just log the output in a pretty format. Okay, so let's see how this works. It's thinking. I promise the gears are churning. It's doing its thing here. It's probably recompiling. It'll get there. Still thinking, oh, cannot send message, awesome. Okay, let's give that another try. Okay, so it looks like I might have some issues here with my network. Yeah, still there. Try it one more time. Demo gremlins. You know it's a live demo when it doesn't work, so. Yeah. Okay, looks like it may not work. Good news is I have backup slides and I can walk through the code at least. Yeah, so assuming this worked, you would get a response back with the basic envelope object. A couple things you would see there. There's an ID that you need to save. So that envelope ID of the object we create, you need to use that for subsequent operations. So you need to store that somewhere. You'll see that we default some options like the reminders and expiration settings, the reminders and expiration settings, whether or not we update chatter, that sort of thing. And the next thing we'll do, and we actually won't do it because it's not working, is we're going to update the envelope and add a document and a recipient. So I would have kept that envelope ID from the previous operation and put it into this. And then what I'm doing here is referencing a DocuSign template. Now you could also query an API that will expose to get a list of templates, but it's probably something you should cache and be aware of. So that's the DocuSign template ID I'm putting in there. I'm passing in a name of the template, whether or not there's any custom fields in the template. And I'm going to go and call the envelope service get envelope method with the envelope ID that I saved. And we're going to add a document to it. So I'm going to take that template, that reference that I created, and convert it to a DocuSign envelope document. And I'm going to add myself as a recipient. And you can see here, it's my email address, my name, the template role. So this has to actually match a role in your template. And then I'm going to call the envelope service update envelope method, passing in the updated envelope. And then, of course, if it was working, I would spit the output out. And we can see what the object looked like. So with a document and a recipient, this would be a completely functional envelope object and ready to send to DocuSign. So that would be the next step here. And we have a method just called send envelope. We pass in the envelope ID, and whether you want it to be sent immediately or you want to save it as a draft in DocuSign. So assuming we sent that, the next thing we do, or we could do, is check the envelope status. So we have a get envelope status method. You have to keep in mind that the status update is an asynchronous process from DocuSign, so it may take some time once you send the envelope or you sign the envelope or whatever to get the status back. And again, if this was working, I'd show you the status object that we return, and you can see exactly where your envelope is. So typically when you send a DocuSign envelope, it would go to the recipient's email inbox. They click on a link in the email and go ahead and go through the signing process. We also expose the ability to embed the signing experience into your applications. So we have an API called getSigningURL, which you pass in that envelope ID, and you pass in a redirect URL. And again, if this were working, it would be redirecting to the homepage of my dev org. And then you can use that URL to initiate a signing session in DocuSign, and once done, it would go to wherever you specified. So once the envelope's signed, it's completed, and probably the final step would be to check the status again. You'd see that the envelope's been completed. You can trigger additional workflows off of that, maybe trigger an order process or whatever it might be based on that information. Okay. So let me go back to my slides. So to recap, we're kind of taking an approach of exposing a ton of extensibility options in DocuSign for Salesforce, so you can pretty much have it your way. So you don't have to adapt to our processes. You can we'll work around yours, right? So right now you can do basic things with administrative settings in JavaScript and URL custom buttons, but coming soon we're going to have a lot more options. with regards to Lightning optimized buttons, invocable actions for your workflows, and Apex Toolkit for whatever else you might imagine. So any questions? Okay. Yes, can we use a mic, please? Sorry, it's just so everyone can hear it.
I guess my question is related to the options for use cases where the document is too complex to use a DocuSign template for, and we have to generate the document using a combination of Visualforce and Apex, and then generate as an attachment, getting that into a DocuSign envelope with the proper DocuSign merge tags. Yeah, so that's actually something we do fairly often with DocuSign for Salesforce. It's a pretty complicated use case where you'd have to attach it and then you'd have to specify a composite template. I'm not sure if you're aware of how that works. No. It's basically taking the documents and some template information and merging them together and making a kind of a super template. Yeah. So that is possible, and we'll be exposing that functionality through the Apex Toolkit. Okay, so it's not GA right now? I'm sorry? You can or can't do it right now? So we can do it right now, absolutely. Are you talking about the out-of-the-box functionality with DocuSign for Salesforce, or coming soon? Or? Out of the box. I was wondering if those the super composite templates that you were mentioning before. So we do support that. Maybe we can take it offline. Okay. I can see your specific use case, and I can maybe give you some guidance on how you can address that. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Thanks. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for attending. If you want to come visit us at booth 31 downstairs, or if you have any questions, you can email us at lightningbeta@docusign.com. We also are doing a mini hack right now, so if you have some time, I recommend doing that. We have a prize giveaway if you come by our booth and tell us what you did. And thank you.